Dave, thanks very much for joining us on our Zoom call. It's what a great start it's been for Boost the Budget so far. £60,000 raised in just 3 days over the weekend.
Yes, hi everybody out there. Yeah, it's phenomenal. I mean, words just fail me. Time and time again, the fans just show that you expect things to be difficult at this time of the year because of what's going on with COVID, etc. But the response so far has been unbelievable. I sat there on Saturday night and said, I cannot believe this. And I was just talking through with Tina saying it's phenomenal. And we kept checking in and I kept refreshing and seeing the total eyes are going up. Brilliant. I mean, there's about 260 people contributed so far. Last year we had over 500. So hopefully we can go on, we continue with this. It's not going to go at the same rate of acceleration as it's done in the first 3 days, but thanks again to Darlington fans. You are standing by the club when we need you. These are very, very difficult times, and it's very, very difficult to manage the finance of a football club with so many uncertainties at the moment.
How positive, how optimistic are you about the players that we've currently got in the squad staying on for the new season?
Yeah, we had a call. So I'm sure the fans up there will be aware the season is now officially over, although the league is still discussing playoffs, etc. But the season is officially over. We don't know how the season is going to end in terms of relegation, promotion, playoffs. But we have 7 days beyond the end of the season finishing, which officially was May the 2nd, to then sort out players with options. Now, just for those out there who don't understand what an option is, players, when you sign them, you sign for a contract and then you have an option to return for a further year, subject to offering the individual the same terms and conditions. Now, as you'll imagine, that's very, very difficult at the moment with COVID. Every club up and down this league is coming to terms with, how do you manage in the current situation? So, for example, we had a very, very good meeting with the players, Alan, myself, and Darren and others the other night, where I talked through the financial realities of what's happening here. So we don't know when this season is technically going to finish. That's the first question. When does it finish? Technically, it's over, but they talk about playoffs. So what happens there? What happens in promotion and relegation? Therefore, when does the next season start? When are they going to be allowed to play next season? With that in mind, when does the contract start from? So the FA have given some guidance around that, which is one of the bits of advice that they have given us, is it can start when the season kicks the ball. So that's good. We've got that established in the new option letters. But ultimately, I don't know when we're going to return to face-to-face football in terms of having crowds in the ground, which are a huge part of our income, which commercial sponsors will be able or in a financial position to support the budget, and how much we're going to get from Boost the Budget. So we've got those issues about Boost the Budget, commercial income, and gate receipt. Until we know all of that, how do you offer a player a contract on the same terms and conditions if you can't afford it? So what we've been doing as a club, and we've spoke to the guys in general and said, listen, guys, there's your options on the same conditions. However, we've caveated that with, when we know the financial position of the budget, we'll talk to you all again. And the meeting was very, very positive. Everybody was, it seems, they were delighted that the club had actually stood on and paid 100% of wages when other clubs didn't. And they understand the position we're in. They're all not daft. They all want to stay and play with Darlington, is my view. We have a great squad there, some great team spirit there. And I'm hoping that over the next, 4 or 5 days that we'll have good news coming as Alan talks to players individually about those who are signing on and want to stay for the option, subject to obviously us understanding the budget position and being able to talk to them again about renegotiated terms should we not be able to afford the budget that we would like to.
The fans are really rallying behind the club, aren't they? I mean, we've talked about the £60,000, but also there was a virtual 50-50 draw, and the price for that was over £1,000 on Saturday. It's amazing, isn't it, considering the financial difficulties that are going around at the moment?
Incredible, but again, how many superlatives do you want me to use about the Darlington fans? They're always there. They stood by. They've been through this. I tell you what is really, really interesting, though. And I don't know whether we're going to talk about the Football League, etc., and what's happening. I think the financial reality is going to hit a lot of clubs. Our fans have been through that. We know where we are. And therefore, we're better positioned than some clubs to deal with this. And our fans know in these difficult times what we've got to do, and they're supporting the club tremendously.
And it's a matter as well of planning it properly, isn't it? Planning different scenarios, 3-month scenario, 6-month scenario, 9-month scenario, with all the different options thrown in. And, like you said there, we seem to be in a better place financially than some of the clubs that we read about and hear about here and there, dotted around England at various levels of football.
Yes, and it's certainly interesting times, and I think that football needs to learn a lesson here. You might have heard, I mean, the fans who listen into my my webcam that we did earlier, Ray, the Football League is waiting on the Premier League to determine how they're going to return and then what's going to happen with the money that flows down. There's a lot of clubs facing financial ruin here unless the monies flow through. And that includes clubs in Championship, League One, League Two. It also includes clubs at conference level, National League North and National League South. There are clubs who probably can't afford to continue in the new world. If the economists are right, and we are facing a 20% drop in GDP following out of COVID, when we may enter a recession, which a lot of these rich benefactors who look after their football clubs, maybe their own businesses are struggling badly, and they can no longer afford to sustain the level of income going into clubs, and therefore budgets will have to be cut. And that's an economic reality. I've been thinking about this in quite some way, because there's obviously talk around the leagues right the way through all the league system about litigation, and that's from the Premier League right the way down. How do you decide when a season finishes? How do you decide on promotion and relegation? I mean, you'll see in the paper today, 8 out of the Premier League clubs are already kicking up a fact that the home advantage is gone, and you can understand that. Let's say, for example, I don't know where this has happened, but let's look at Norwich and Bournemouth. One of them's played at home and they got the advantage of that. The other one says, right, great, they've got to come to us. It's a 6-pointer on the table. But actually, you're going to play at St. George's. Home advantage is gone. How is that going to be sorted out? That again leaves itself open to litigation. And making financial models about points per game and this, that, and the other. This has all come about. This threat of litigation has come about based around financial mismanagement right the way through the Football League system. Darlington have suffered from that in the past. We're in a good position here. Our cash flow is decent. We are sustainable through this year. We're sustainable through Christmas. Okay, we've got to manage our creditors and do things professionally, but we're not in as bad a place as a lot of these clubs that we're looking at here. I've got a feeling that this is going to change. You might even see league structures change. You might see League Two change or merge North and South with conference. You might see changes at our level, North and South. But one thing I think that we should be doing, and I've got to work out the best way of getting this message out or writing to the league around it. There is no financial fair play in the lower leagues. You've got rich benefactors, and there's an argument which says if they want to put their money in the football club, let them. It can't be good for the security of our game if those clubs then all of a sudden disappear overnight because the benefactors can't put money in anymore. That's not good for the Football League. It's not good that our league is beheld to threats of litigation and therefore reluctant to make decisions for fear of being sued. That's all because of prostitution to the money in the Football League. So my thoughts around this are, why don't we have a club set its budget based on its gate receipts? How much have you got? The paying fans coming through the door equals X, and you can double that with commercial sponsorship to Y. So that way you have a model where your fans coming through the door, say there is, I'm making these figures, let's say there is £250,000 a year of revenue coming through the door. And you can then say, right, we're only allowed to make £250,000 of commercial revenue. If I'm the rich benefactor putting in, that's all I can put in, subject to what's been put in by the fans. And that way you then have financial fair play based on a sound financial model of how clubs can be sustainable based on setting a budget based on what they can afford. And I think we've got to return to something like that, Ray. And, thoughts are going around my head at the moment about how, when we get through this mess, we've got to reset that temperature dial and say, we need some financial fair play throughout the divisions.
It does seem as if there are some clubs who are basically on the tipping point, isn't it? And remember, they got all the players' contracts to continue paying until the end of June, higher up the ladder there, and they're pleading for financial help, which at the moment doesn't seem to be on the horizon.
No, and it's something that the Premier League, the Football League, and the down to North and South, we all have to have a hard look at ourselves and determine how to do it. I think Darlington have been through that pain, and we know where we are. We know what we're doing. But I think that reality is going to strike a lot of other clubs.
Anyway, looking at our own club, £60,000 at the moment. The target is a minimum of 100,000, isn't it, by the end of May? We're all pretty optimistic that can be reached.
Yeah, I think the 100 can be reached. I mean, and this might sound very, very, very pushy, but I'd like to think we can go beyond the 100K. for the reasons being, I don't know when we're going to return to face-to-face. God forbid that they make us play behind closed doors. That model won't work for non-league football. But we don't know how much our commercial sponsors are going to stand on. What will they be able to afford when they come out of COVID? If their incomes are down, their spending power is down, we're not going to see the same commercial income. So the more we can raise to boost the budget is important. It's key to giving Alan a competitive playing budget. You know, at the end of the day, we'll be able to set a budget based on what the club can afford.